He died in his sleep because of this. I beg you, stop doing it. It leads to heart attacks and strokes. Before I share anything further, I need you to completely stop what you are doing, put down whatever distractions you have in your hand, and pay extraordinarily close attention to the information I am about to present. This message could very well save your life or prevent a tragedy for someone you hold dear. What I'm going to explain today is not typically discussed by doctors during a brief, routine physical exam. It's something insidious that happens quietly in the dark while you are completely unaware, yet it is responsible for killing people every single night. I recently experienced this firsthand through the story of a very close friend of mine, Harold. He was a retired school teacher, 71 years old, living in Columbus, Ohio, a man full of vitality and humor. One morning, his wife went to wake him up and found him unresponsive. He had gone to bed the previous night feeling perfectly fine. There were no warning signs, no chest pain, no discomfort, nothing to indicate that anything was wrong. He was gone before the ambulance even arrived at the house. The cause of death was determined to be a massive cardiac event that occurred while he slept. When I delved deeper into Harold's medical history and daily routines in the months leading up to this, I uncovered a critical detail that his primary care doctor had completely overlooked. It was a pattern of behavior, a set of seemingly harmless nighttime habits that millions of seniors are engaging in right now, tonight, without realizing the profound damage they are quietly inflicting upon their hearts, thickening their blood, and setting the stage for sudden death and stroke. A landmark study published by the European Heart Journal, a highly respected source in the field of cardiovascular science, followed over 84,000 adults between the ages of 60 and 80 over a period of 9 years. The researchers found that individuals who engaged in a specific set of nighttime habits, which I will outline for you today, had a staggering 67% higher risk of cardiovascular-related death during sleep compared to those who had made simple, targeted changes to their evening routine. 67%. That figure is not a small margin of error. It represents the difference between waking up tomorrow morning to see the sunrise and not waking up at all. Now, I anticipate some of you may be thinking, "Oh, doctor, I feel fine. I sleep fine. This doesn't apply to me." And that exact line of reasoning is precisely what costs people their lives, because the most dangerous conditions never announce themselves with a shout or a sudden flash of pain. They build silently over months and years, like rust forming on the inside of a pipe, invisible and undetectable until the pipe bursts. Today, I am going to walk you through 6 specific things that seniors absolutely must stop doing before bed. I will present them in order of importance from number 6 down to number 1, and I assure you that the closer we get to number 1, the more critical and potentially life-saving the information becomes. I will tell you right now that number 2 on this list shocked even me when I first reviewed the research, and most of you have absolutely no idea you are doing it. So please stay with me all the way to the end, because missing even one of these crucial points could potentially cost you everything. Let's begin with a habit that might surprise you because it appears so fundamentally harmless: eating a large meal within 2 hours of going to bed. This is something that millions of people do every single night. A late dinner, a big snack while watching television, or perhaps finishing leftovers before turning in. It feels comforting in the moment, a simple part of unwinding. But here is precisely what is happening inside your body when you do this, and the physiological process is far from pretty. When you consume a substantial amount of food, particularly one high in carbohydrates or fat, your digestive system demands an enormous surge of blood flow to initiate and process that food. Your heart, essentially a pump, must work significantly harder to reroute blood flow from other areas of your body to your stomach and intestines. For a healthy 30-year-old, this demand is manageable. However, researchers at the University of São Paulo published findings showing that in adults over 65, this postprandial, meaning after eating, cardiac stress increases blood pressure by an average of 22 points and elevates the heart rate substantially for up to 3 hours. Now imagine that scenario happening while you are lying horizontally and attempting to sleep, with your body already entering its most vulnerable state. Furthermore, a full stomach increases the risk of acid reflux. When stomach acid travels upward into the esophagus, which occurs much more easily when you are lying flat with a full stomach, it can trigger what is called vagal stimulation. The vagus nerve, which runs from the brain to the heart and stomach, connects the digestive process directly to the heart rhythm. For susceptible individuals, especially those with pre-existing conditions like atrial fibrillation, this stimulation can trigger irregular and potentially dangerous heart rhythms. After the age of 70, your lower esophageal sphincter, which is essentially the valve at the bottom of your throat that keeps acid down, weakens considerably, making this problem dramatically worse. The solution here is beautifully simple, yet profoundly impactful. Finish your last full meal at least 3 hours before bed. If you are genuinely hungry in the evening, a small, easily digestible snack, such as a handful of walnuts or a small banana, is perfectly acceptable. To multiply the benefit of this habit change, pair it with a short 10-minute walk after dinner. Research from the University of Limerick found that just a 10-minute post-meal walk significantly reduces blood glucose spikes by 28% and takes significant pressure off your cardiovascular system during those critical nighttime hours. This single change, implemented tonight, begins protecting your heart immediately. Moving to our next point, we address a habit that your doctor has almost certainly never mentioned, yet it affects nearly 60% of seniors over the age of 70 every single evening without a second thought. I am talking about the timing of your medication, specifically taking your blood pressure medication in the morning when you actually should be taking it at night. A groundbreaking study, again published in the European Heart Journal, followed over 19,000 patients over a period of 6 years. The researchers discovered that people who took their antihypertensive medication at bedtime rather than in the morning had a remarkable 45% lower risk of heart attack, a 49% lower risk of heart failure, and a stunning 66% lower risk of stroke. The reason for this significant difference comes down to something called nocturnal hypertension, a phenomenon where blood pressure spikes dangerously high during the early morning hours, typically between 3 lux a.m. and 6 lux a.m. This specific window is precisely when most cardiac events and strokes occur. When you take your blood pressure medication in the morning, its peak effectiveness occurs around midday, and by the time you enter that dangerous early morning window, the medication's effect has significantly worn off. However, when you take it at night, it is working at full strength, precisely when your body needs it most to counteract that natural morning spike. Now, it is absolutely critical that you do not change your medication timing without first speaking to your doctor. Every situation is different, and some medications must be taken with food. However, I urge you to print out this study, bring it to your next appointment, and have that conversation with your healthcare provider. It could genuinely save your life. This change pairs remarkably well with the next point on our list because these two work together to multiply their protective benefit dramatically. Our fourth point on the list is something I call the silent dehydration trap, and it is one of the most underestimated cardiovascular threats facing people over 65. Here is the dangerous irony of this habit. Most seniors intentionally drink less water in the evening to avoid waking up for bathroom trips during the night. That instinct makes complete sense on the surface, as disrupting sleep is certainly undesirable. But what this habit does to your blood while you sleep is genuinely terrifying. As we age, our kidneys become less efficient at concentrating urine, and simultaneously, the body's thirst mechanism, controlled by a part of the brain called the hypothalamus, becomes blunted after about age 60. Research from the University of Connecticut's Human Performance Laboratory found that older adults can be significantly dehydrated without ever feeling thirsty. Now, here is where it connects directly to your heart and brain. When you are dehydrated during sleep, your blood becomes thicker and more viscous. To understand this, imagine the difference between water flowing easily through a pipe versus honey trying to flow through the same pipe. That thick, sticky blood has to be pumped by your heart with far greater effort. Furthermore, thick blood forms clots far more easily. which is exactly how thrombotic strokes happen. A study published in the American Journal of Epidemiology found that adults over 65 who were mildly dehydrated at bedtime had blood viscosity levels comparable to those seen immediately before a thrombotic stroke. The solution is not to chug water right before bed, as that will simply keep you in the bathroom all night. Instead, a more effective strategy is to front-load your hydration. Drink a full glass of water, ideally with electrolytes, particularly potassium and magnesium, about 2 hours before sleep. Foods naturally rich in potassium, like a small baked sweet potato or a few dried apricots consumed in the late afternoon, help maintain hydration through the night without flooding your bladder. Magnesium specifically has the added benefit of relaxing arterial walls and actually lowering blood pressure during sleep. These two nutrients together act like a gentle protective cushion for your cardiovascular system during the night ahead. Let's keep going because we are now getting into the most critical territory. Number 3 on our list is one that truly breaks my heart because I see it every single week, and I saw it firsthand with a patient of mine named Dorothy, 78 years old, from Tucson, Arizona. Dorothy came to me after her second minor stroke in 18 months. She was on all the right medications, exercised regularly, and ate reasonably well. But when I asked her about her evenings, she described something I immediately recognized as a serious underlying problem. Every night, without fail, Dorothy spent 2 to 3 hours lying in bed, scrolling through her tablet, watching the news, looking at social media, and viewing family videos with the screen just inches from her face. She had no idea that this seemingly innocuous habit was directly destabilizing her cardiovascular system night after night. Here is the underlying science. The blue light emitted by screens, phones, tablets, televisions directly suppresses melatonin production. Most people think of melatonin simply as a sleep hormone, but researchers at the Brigham and Women's Hospital, affiliated with Harvard Medical School, have demonstrated that melatonin plays a critical, often unrecognized role in cardiovascular protection. It acts as a potent antioxidant that protects the lining of blood vessels, called the endothelium, from the kind of oxidative damage that leads to plaque buildup, arterial stiffening, and ultimately heart attack and stroke. When melatonin production is suppressed by nighttime screen use, this protective shield is essentially lowered. In adults over 70 whose melatonin production is already reduced by approximately 75% compared to younger adults, this suppression is particularly devastating. A study from the Journal of the American College of Cardiology found that chronic nighttime light exposure was associated with a 43% increase in major adverse cardiac events in older adults. Dorothy followed my advice. She instituted a strict no-screen policy after 8 p.m. Within 6 weeks, she told me she was sleeping more deeply than she had in years. Within 4 months, her inflammatory markers, specifically C-reactive protein, which measures inflammation in the cardiovascular system, had dropped by over 30%. She has not had a cardiac event since. Stop the screens 2 hours before bed. It is one of the most powerful cardiovascular decisions you can make. Number 2, and I promised you this one would surprise you, is sleeping on your back. Now, before you dismiss this information and tell me I've lost my mind, please hear me out, because the research supporting this is absolutely undeniable. When you sleep flat on your back, gravity causes the tongue and soft tissues of the throat to fall backward, partially or fully blocking the airway. This physical obstruction is the primary mechanism behind obstructive sleep apnea, a condition affecting an estimated 50% of adults over 65, the vast majority of whom have never been properly diagnosed. During these apnea episodes, your brain senses the lack of oxygen and sounds an emergency alarm, flooding your body with stress hormones, particularly cortisol and adrenaline. Your blood pressure can spike to dangerously high levels dozens, sometimes hundreds of times per night. Each episode lasts only seconds, brief enough that you never fully wake up and remember it, but long enough to cause serious cumulative damage. The American Heart Association has formally recognized untreated sleep apnea as a major independent risk factor for hypertension, atrial fibrillation, heart attack, and stroke. A study published in the journal Circulation found that adults with moderate to severe sleep apnea had a 58% higher risk of fatal cardiac arrhythmia during sleep. This is precisely how otherwise healthy-seeming people die quietly in the night. If you share a bed, ask your partner whether you snore heavily or seem to stop breathing momentarily during sleep. If you sleep alone, record yourself with your phone's voice memo app for one night. The signs of intermittent gasping or choking are often unmistakable. The solution is remarkably simple. Sleeping on your side, particularly your left side, which reduces pressure on the heart, is dramatically protective. A simple body pillow behind your back can prevent you from rolling over onto your back during the night. For those with confirmed sleep apnea, a CPAP device is genuinely life-saving. Do not allow stubbornness or discomfort to keep you from using it. The cost of a good night's sleep far outweighs the risk of sudden death from a cardiac event. And now we have arrived at number 1, the single most dangerous bedtime habit for seniors, the one that ties all of the others together and multiplies every cardiovascular risk I have described today. Are you ready? It is chronic, untreated emotional stress allowed to fester in the hours before sleep. I want you to truly reflect on your typical evening for a moment. Do you watch the news, politics, crime reports, or disasters right before bed? Do you lie awake running through worries about your health, your finances, or your family? Do you replay difficult conversations or conflicts from the day? If so, you are engaging in what researchers at the University of California, Berkeley call rumination before rest, and its impact on your cardiovascular system is nothing short of catastrophic. Here's the mechanism. When you experience psychological stress, whether from external news or internal worries, your body releases cortisol and adrenaline, the exact same stress hormones triggered by sleep apnea. But in this case, the release is sustained. Chronic evening stress keeps these hormones elevated throughout the night, preventing your blood pressure from completing its natural nighttime dip, what cardiologists call nocturnal dipping. In a healthy person, blood pressure drops 10 to 20% during sleep, giving the heart and blood vessels critical recovery time. In individuals experiencing chronic stress, this dip never fully happens, forcing the heart to work overtime all night long. A 20-year study conducted jointly by the American Heart Association and researchers at Johns Hopkins University found that adults who reported chronic nighttime worry and high evening stress levels had a 72% higher lifetime risk of fatal cardiovascular events compared to their peers with lower evening stress. After age 70, when the body's ability to regulate cortisol is already diminished by roughly 40%, this effect becomes even more pronounced and dangerous. This, ultimately, is what took my friend Harold. It wasn't just one thing. It was the accumulation, the late meals, the dehydration, the screens, the back sleeping, and underneath it all, a man who worried every night about his retirement finances without ever telling anyone. His cardiovascular system never got the recovery time it so desperately needed. The intervention for chronic stress is not complicated, but it must be intentional. 30 minutes before bed, practice what I call a cardiac wind down. Turn off all news and screens. Write down 3 things that went well today. Genuine research from the Greater Good Science Center at UC Berkeley shows that this simple act of gratitude journaling measurably lowers cortisol within 20 minutes. Practice 4-7-8 breathing. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 7, exhale slowly for 8. This activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is your body's natural calm-down system, and directly lowers heart rate and blood pressure. If prayer or meditation is part of your life, this is its most powerful application, not as a spiritual formality, but as genuine physiological medicine for your heart. Pair this with magnesium glycinate, 200 to 400 ml, taken 30 minutes before bed. This form of magnesium, unlike others, crosses the blood-brain barrier and directly calms the nervous system while simultaneously relaxing blood vessel walls. Studies from the National Institutes of Health have found it reduces nighttime cortisol and improves sleep quality in adults over 65 by up to 39%. Think of it as a gentle hand on your heart's shoulder, telling it that it is safe to rest tonight. I want to close with something I say to every single patient I sit across from, regardless of age or condition. It is never too late. That is not empty encouragement. It is biological reality. The human body, even at 75, even at 80, even at 85, retains a remarkable capacity to heal and adapt when we remove the things that are harming it. Your heart wants to beat steadily for decades more. Your brain wants to remain sharp and clear. Your legs want to carry you to your grandchildren's birthdays, your garden in the morning, and the porch in the evening. Every single change I described today, stopping the late meals, adjusting your medication timing, staying hydrated, eliminating screens, changing your sleep position, and protecting your emotional peace. Each of these is within your reach tonight, not next month. Tonight. You did not make it to this age by being weak. You made it here because you are resilient, and the people who love you need you to keep going, not just to be alive, but to be vital, present, and yourself. That is what these habits protect, not just your heartbeat, but your life. All of the scientific studies I referenced today are linked in the description below. Please share this video with someone you love, a spouse, a sibling, or a friend, because you may never know whose life it saves. If you are not subscribed to this channel yet, please do that right now by clicking the button below. We release new content every week dedicated entirely to helping you live longer, stronger, and with the independence you deserve. Before you go, leave me a comment right now. Tell me, which of these 6 habits were you most surprised by? And are you going to make any changes tonight? I read every single comment, and I look forward to hearing from you. Take good care of yourselves. I will see you in the next one.